So do I have to give kudos to you two for your Mavs making it into the NBA Finals?
Men go mad.
He's gone mad.
Madmen.
The man's mad.
Madmen.
I'm mad.
There's such a good storyline with all of this, right? Like if you look at it, Mavs are playing Porzingis, Kyrie's playing the Celtics, um, the Jason Kidd thing, going back to the finals. The last time he was there, or no, he was there as an assistant coach, but going back as a head coach for the Mavs, it's pretty dope. This is like it's totally scripted, can't you tell?
Great time to be a Dallas sports fan, unless it's the Cowboys.
I know. Can you imagine how Jerry feels right now? Like being the worst, most valuable franchise, but the worst team in Dallas.
There was a great story about the CMO of the NBA. She was talking about just like these stories play itself, and like it's just fun to see and be able to articulate those stories. And she was looking at they were talking about this sports thing, and it was just a very good. It was a very good aspect of seeing how the CMO says, "Hey, look, these are all stories, and all we're doing here is telling stories, and it's they all play itself." So I was like, that's gotta be a fun job just to be able to tell the stories of these players and how they came from one to another, and how so many angles. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we got to also think about like just the internationalization of this game now, right? Like it's nuts how this is just going to open so many more doors for everything. So.
Sports is on its rise. Women's sports, basketball, college football. There's a 3-on-3 basket. There's a 3-on-3 women's basketball league opening up, and they're like paying at six figures. Like, did y'all hear about that? Different story for a different day.
Wait, isn't that from Ice Cube?
Is it Ice Cube? I just saw it.
Well, I think Ice Cube invited Caitlin Clark to join the Big Three and gave her a really good contract, more than she would make in the WNBA, but she declined.
I
And
think he offered $5 million, and instead she took $70,000 with the WNBA. Just in playing contract. That doesn't include any of her endorsement deals. But
There's a pretty dope Gatorade commercial where she remakes the Jordan commercial from back in the days. But anyways, let's get to the docket, guys. Welcome back. I know we missed last week. I was traveling, and world was a little crazy last week. So we are back. It is my episode, and we are going to go through trends, and then we're going to end up with a general topic, as we do. So you guys ready to go? All right. So while we were gone on Monday, May 13th, OpenAI launched an update to ChatGPT called 4.0, and in that update, ChatGPT was given a voice, which sounds quite similar to Scarlett Johansson. And at the same time, Sam Altman tweeted "her" in what many speculate is a reference to the movie Her, which has a virtual assistant who is voiced by Scarlett Johansson. But that's not quite what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about isn't that the controversy about those two guys, and they've got enough money, they'll figure it out, and Scarlett Johansson may own more of ChatGPT after this. But the idea of creating similarities, is this infringing on copyright or some sort of intellectual property? And I'll give you another example, right? Alexander Wang recently launched a campaign using celebrity lookalikes, including some that look like Taylor Swift and Beyonce. And what I want to hear from you guys is, what is your take on this? In this new world of AI and the ability to recreate sounds and recreate voices and recreate visual graphics and just look like people, what do you think?
legally, I have no idea because this is such a gray area, and AI is just going to screw everything when it comes to figuring out what is considered protected and what's not. I think even now there's like debates about whether you going into a Gemini or an ideogram and generating an image, can you really use that for any purpose, including commercial? And currently the answer is yes, but is that going to be the case? Probably not. It's weird, man. I don't know. I think the Alexander Wang thing it felt very violating and IP to me there. But at the same time, I think we are kind of going through this world of trying to figure out what and who owns rights to what. And just because these celebrities have a little bit of presence in our brain, does that mean that you can't activate that? I don't know. I don't know if I fully believe that just because if someone looks like Taylor Swift, who has been in our face for the last couple of years, does that mean Taylor Swift owns the impression of Taylor Swift? I don't know. It's weird. But the Scarlett Johansson one I think was really funny. And it seems like she was like rejecting this idea of her being the voice. And then once that happened, OpenAI was like, oh yeah, no, it's not you. If you don't want it to be you, it's not you. Please don't come after us.
Well, I mean, Sam Altman also came out and said that he reached out to her multiple times, right? Like personally, he did, trying to get her voice. And so it's really these NBA playoffs. Like we kind of talked about the NBA earlier, but did you guys see all those viral AI videos too of how they're using Luka's voice in press conferences and like him saying absolutely crazy things? But it really begs the question of like, how is this going to change our culture altogether? Like, are we just going to become numb to IP in general? I know if I've done a lot of business in China, and that's generally the case. Is like you just don't care who the original person was at all. And so at some point, there's going to be some people getting sued and some people, but at some point it's just going to get so crazy where Americans are just gonna be like, I don't care if it's Scarlett Johansson or AI. I just think it's entertaining, and I think it's gonna have a greater cultural impact than anything else.
But like it's like you look at music, and we talked about this before, right? Music is very much like in the same format. Like, hey, I took inspiration from this song. Or if you look at movie scripts and movie actors and saying, hey, look, I want Scarlett Johansson to be in this movie, and if I can't get Scarlett Johansson, I need somebody similar to Scarlett Johansson to play this role. Like, can you not? Like today, that's not a problem, right? Because the music industry does it, the film industry does it. In this world, it's become very numb to say, "Hey, look, can we?" I mean, it's inspiration, and this is all. This is a new variation of inspiration, right? And I think what needs to be the kind of the alternative to this is them saying, "Hey, look, go ahead and license it," right? And say, "Hey, look," and in certain cases, you can, right? You can tell Alexa to go be the voice of Amitabh Bachchan. I know I've seen that before, right? And I'm sure it's a licensing fee, right? Like, hey, every time somebody uses that, but that's the the idea there, right? I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting world. I agree. I don't know if IP is really going to play its toll on this, and I don't even know if the courts can even get involved in this at this point.
The point you made about China and like how it works there. It feels like the China part, it's not working. The IP does not work there because there isn't a good enough system to regulate and enforce those protections. And I think now that everybody has AI at the fingertips, that's going to be the question here is who and how do we regulate and enforce protection of IP? And what's happening in all of these legislative halls is that there's old non-tech people trying to regulate this or trying to figure out how to make sense of it, and it's not working. I think the right answer is you need to use AI to regulate AI. And that's where like maybe some of this IP starts to become a little bit more protected, is that if you trust a system, a technology that can evaluate to see if IP is being violated to some degree or to some sort of percentage metric that they can make up, then we now have a system in place to be able to regulate IP in the world of AI. But the world is not ready to accept AI as the truth and AI being the enforcer of the truth. And that's where we're going to get stuck, in my opinion. All right, I'm going to take us to the next one. Let's go back to simpler times, guys. 2019, when the one person everyone was talking about was Marie Kondo. I'm bringing it back, guys. Everyone at that time felt that need to declutter a bit. Everyone dreamed of a clean life filled with only the things that sparked joy in your life. Man, such a simple time in life. Well, she's back. And I'm a sucker for strategic partnerships where the brand, the product, and the talent just fit so perfectly. And I got a really good one for you. Marie Kondo is partnering with Stulp, a Belgian startup that produces a small phone box that essentially blocks the signal on your phone so that you have better phone habits and can truly disconnect. So literally imagine a little box that you put your phone in when you don't want to be engaged with the digital world. They're creating a limited edition version with Marie Kondo, and each comes with a digital guide to digital decluttering. So now Marie Kondo has shaped this contemporary view of home organization and has inspired many of us to adopt more intentional approaches to living in our living spaces. And now she and Stulp are encouraging people to take that thoughtful approach to their digital lives and the devices that distract them from focusing on what truly matters. Again, I'm a huge fan of when the spokesperson and the celebrity and everything they're about just fits what the brand is out to accomplish in the world. I couldn't think of any better celebrity partner to partner with Stulp, who is on a mission to help us declutter from the digital world, help us disconnect from all the things that are distracting. These are things that we're hearing more about, right, in the last few years, about people wanting to disengage, that this new generation doesn't want to be constantly connected. And we are appreciating more of our physical spaces and our environments, and we don't want to be connected to our phone. And who's better at decluttering than Marie Kondo? Kudos.
So
Correct
let
me
me
if
get
I'm
this
wrong.
straight.
Go ahead.
So why can't we just put this into like Tupperware and then just like put it aside? Like, I mean, I get it. Like, it looks great, and the consumer man in me is probably going to add to cart in a little bit. But what's like, what makes this? I get it. It's blocking signal, and I see all that. But ultimately, it's still like we're talking about the problem. Still not something we're addressing. Like, is it? Are we actually going to figure out the toxicity of phone use? Like, I deal with that. I know so many other people deal with it where we can't put our phones down sometimes because we just need it. It's so intrinsically part of our daily lives. And now this device that I have to place, and it doesn't. So like, I even tried Opal, and I still use Opal. We talked about that a few weeks ago. It has helped in many ways because I know it's like phone, turn off time, right? Um, but ultimately, like, how are we addressing this as a society? I think it's gonna be a generational thing. I think like another group of the next generation will come in and say, hey, we just don't want our phones as much around, and that's probably what's gonna happen. I don't know. I like, they're probably gonna sell like a couple 100,000. I can't imagine this being a very successful product though.
My question is around Marie. Didn't she? Wasn't there controversy that she like stopped being clean and organized, and then was an article on like Variety or something that said like my home is messy now? Like,
Because she
didn't
has,
this
she,
like
cause she got kids. She had kids.
it was she had kids, right? Yeah. Like, so is this good timing for them? Like, here's my I guess my take on that is like partnerships are interesting, but like once somebody comes out, and that's the whole idea of partnerships is hey, look, do you time this correctly, or do you bring some nostalgic back, and kind of what you were saying, right? Samira was like the nostalgia of what she used to do is there, but the people that really know her or even are fans of her, like I had to do some research, right? I wasn't a fan of her, but now that I remember her a little bit, I remember her through COVID and stuff. But like, I don't know if that's a good partnership anymore, because they're like, yeah, it's just doesn't make it work, right? But on the product side, yeah, Adil, I agree with you. I think there's a, I can see this in like certain cool restaurants trying to be like bougie and saying, hey, look, we have this, and you put it in there, and when you come in, this is a no cell phone zone or whatever. And I can't imagine people are actually gonna
Yeah, I
sit in
mean,
a room
you got it right. That's a really good angle. Is like, just kind of experiential. You go to a restaurant, place it there. Brought to you by Marie Kondo. Good placement of her brand. Um, I think uh, people do have short term memory. Like, I remember seeing that Forbes article, but when you started talking about Stulp and Marie Kondo, I'm thinking of the clean Marie Kondo. Like, I was not thinking of my house is dirty now, Marie Kondo. So. It's I think she still has that brand for simplicity, just clean. That's still her. The product matches, and so if you're following along, just go type in Stulp and Marie Kondo, or go to stulp.com, stolp.com. On the homepage, Marie Kondo's in a nice clean living room, and then there's a little box in the corner where she's putting her phone in. So the point here is that this is just very gimmicky. I think it's ultimately going to lead to a world without phones, and where it's going to be so much more wearable product, or a wearable technology. Google Glass was not it, and I don't think the Apple Vision Pro is not it either. But there's going to be something that comes up where it's going to totally replace this need to carry around a device all the time. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Don't say it's the AI pin either, because that's not working either.
Oh my gosh, what a flop.
But no, I mean, I think I'm with you about Marie Kondo. I think what people remember about her was what she stood for. Maybe not who she is, but I think the whole concept of decluttering and her approach to decluttering is what is memorable about her brand. I think I think it's safe to say even on her show that she had, it wasn't about teaching you how to maintain being clean. It was this one-time thing that you'd use to reset your life. And clearly trying to maintain that level of declutter is really difficult, that even Marie Kondo couldn't sustain that, especially not with kids. But I appreciate what she stood for. And then this product itself, to respond to that, I think you guys are right that it is a little bit of gimmicky here too. I feel like we all have the ability to put our phones away, but that will require discipline, which none of us have. What this, I think, does is completely makes your phone useless. And I think that is like maybe that one extra level one extra level to layer on this discipline that we need, that your phone is just not functioning. So why look at it? Versus you keep it in your pocket and it's just buzzing and going off. You put it in airplane mode, you can turn it off and all your messages are going to come back. I think there is like something emotional about putting your phone in a box and it not having any activity, not even a signal wave being communicated in this device or in this box or not. I don't think it's enough for us. I think we're too addicted to our phones, but I think it is one level higher than just the discipline of putting your phone away.
Well, on that note, I'm launching a website called Dulp, and I'm reselling Tupperware where you can put your phone in. So I'm gonna move it on. So June is upon us, guys, and you guys know what that means. The rainbow carpet is being rolled out. Company posts are about to come on us, all about love and everything just being fair and all of that good stuff, right? So you guys remember last year though when Target got all that backlash and they were under fire for having so many pride items at the front of their stores. Well, someone didn't give the memo to Walmart, and Walmart is officially launching a pretty big pride collection in all of their stores. So they just posted on Instagram. They captioned it, "Not just a slogan, hashtag Pride Always is a reminder to lead with love." So this is just coming a few weeks right after Target says that they're going to scale back their Pride collection to select stores only. So they have some cool products. I was actually looking at them. They have it's called the Pride Always collection. So there's a notebook that says Beyond Gender, a tote bag that says Totes Gay, kind of cute. A fanny pack that says I heart gay people, and rainbow colored pencils and then a pool floaty and whatnot. So amidst the Target backlash, this was really interesting about this. I recall the Walmart CEO saying this. He said, "We don't wake up in the morning wanting to go and make social and political statements. But this year they do this." So what is this, guys? Is this a total cash grab or what's going on here?
I don't think this is a political statement. I think this is Walmart being a retailer and having a merchandising strategy that reflects the audience that shops at Walmart. I think Target had a lot more to lose last year. I think they lost like $9 billion in market cap. When you think about the slightly more affluent shopper who shops in the mass channel, that will be Target. And those people tend to have more conservative views. I think Walmart doesn't speak to that type of shopper. Yes, like this year, Walmart even said that they had actually increased their user, and a lot of it has come from more affluent shoppers. And it almost seems like people who stopped shopping at Target are now shopping at Walmart. Kudos to Walmart for being able to do that. But I just don't think that Walmart is going to face this type of backlash that Target did last year, because I think it was almost expected from Target last year. It's always been sort of a little bit more of a modern retailer who speaks more modern principles. They have a little bit more of a younger take on values. And I think Walmart saw the value in how Target is positioned in the market, and they're looking at this as one way of positioning themselves better amongst the audience and the allies of the LGBTQ community. And I think they're right. I think Walmart's too critical to those who shop it and are offended by this for them to quit Walmart. Because if they quit Walmart and they quit Target last year, where the hell are they going to go? Everywhere else is more expensive, and they're not going to be able to do that. So I feel like there is a strategy behind doubling down on this. I don't think this was like Walmart being ignorant to Target's losses last year. I think this was strategic, and I think it's smart.
Summer, I think you hit it on the nail, right? I think because there's nowhere else for them to go, it is a perfect move by Walmart to say, hey, look, you got nowhere else to go. We're going to be here and we're going to provide you what you need at the cost that you need, right? And they know they're not going to go to Target, right? Because they're already, even if Target thinks about bringing a portion of that back, there's already this, internal insight on that and saying, hey, look, I've already got this mental block about Target and these type of products. I'm going to go to Walmart and Walmart's going to capitalize on it. Now, the question becomes is how bold does Walmart go? Coming out Memorial Day weekend was bold and they didn't get the controversy that we thought we would. So I think they're on a good track, right? They tested the market and said, hey, look, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it on Memorial Day weekend. That's where the announcements came out. And they didn't get pushed backlash because then they would have some time to go recoup it and re-strategize. And I think that was a strategic move to say, hey, look, can we pull this out ahead of time? So I think they're gonna hit home because they've tested the market. They know that they've got the right audience now, and this is just additional income that they would have not gotten on the other hand. So good job, Walmart.
Yeah, and despite my intro, I agree with you guys. I think this was actually a smart business decision. So there's I started digging into it, is like what's driving a lot of these decisions. Travel bookings alone for Pride events. Like you guys won't believe it. I know we're gonna be talking about cruises and other travel things later in this episode, but just for Pride events, Gen Zers, there's a 300% increase in travel bookings for Pride celebrations worldwide. Millennials are still leading this, by the way. Like millennials by far have the largest representation at these Pride events. But now that Gen Zers are getting more disposable income, they're entering that that level of income. They're spending their money on things like this, and they're going to events like this. And Walmart probably recognizes that this is just becoming a normal place, right? So this is just smart business.
Total side skirt on disposable income and sidebar on that. We were just in Spain this past week, and the amount of people that we saw that flew up just for Taylor Swift concert was insane. My whole flight back on Madrid, from Madrid to Houston, was all Taylor Swift fans, and it's ridiculous, and you'll appreciate it because they had this thing at my hotel where they were doing like friendship bracelets and stuff. The prices were ridiculously cheap compared to the U.S. Floor seats were $300, guys.
What?
Compared to me and my wife looked at it. We're like, hey, we should go to this because we're here. We're not big enough Taylor Swift fans to go drop $600-700 on tickets, regardless of their floor or not. I'm not standing for 3 hours for Taylor Swift. We did that once in my life during New Year's Eve 20-something. Not doing that again. But a couple $100 you can get, $200-300 you can get lower level tickets. It was quite reasonable. Total side conversation. But yeah, so if you ever want to go see Taylor Swift, go see her in Europe. Don't see her in America. Speaking of Europe, I know all of us hate that if you're going onto websites nowadays, you hit the accept or decline cookies. You get that on every damn website now. And for those listeners that don't understand why that is there, well, cookies help the website owner better understand the consumer who's going to the website, and that way they can get personalized information and serve you ads in the right way so they feel like they have a better close rate, right? We're all marketers. We understand that. We want close rates. We want the purchase better purchase rates from the consumers, but new regulations now require us to ask, do you want to accept these cookies or do you want to reject them? And if you're in the US, you can usually reject them and move on with your life. But if you're in the EU, what I learned recently is certain websites, mostly news and entertainment informational sites, they'll ask you to pay if you decline the cookies. Some were like 50 cents, some of them were a couple euros, but it was interesting to see that if you decline the cookies, you would have to pay to watch, view the content on the website. What do you think about that, guys? That's new world territory right there. You think that's going to flow over here in the U.S.?
It's really starting to feel like the world revolves around advertising, huh? That's really interesting. I mean, I think none of us want to admit it as consumers. I'm going to put it out there for you guys too out there. You want a better advertising experience on the websites you browse. You want this. You don't think you do, You keep telling the world that you want the data to stop tracking you, you want brands to not be able to buy your data, you want privacy and security. I get it. But you want better advertising experiences. You want to be served ads and content that is for you. And this is how it works. And clearly in Europe, if you choose not to, you will pay because somebody has to make money. and it's funny that now that's the strategy, is to force people to buy their way into seeing content, and that's because you don't want cookies to be tracking you on that website. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Samir. I always actually hit allow cookies just because I agree with I do want to see what gets pushed to me. And I find it really interesting actually. And I think back in the day there used to be like people would care a lot more about sharing their information and stuff because it was just like, oh no, I don't want them to know about me. People know now that these social media companies, these websites, they all know everything about you. Now they're just having to ask permission for it. So it's this is just like I don't think there will be much pushback on this, honestly.
Look, if we look at the top 10, to sort of to your point, like if you look at the top 10 companies, majority of these have an ad platform that makes them money, right? Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, even Berkshire has got some ad companies in their portfolio. Like these are all companies that have some sort of app platform that make majority of their generation revenue, right? So Google guys who are, and then Nvidia right now being the most large company, all their data is going into some sort of platform that's going to build an advertising platform for somebody, right? So yeah, I mean, if you didn't know that today, guys, and you guys are listening to this podcast, marketing runs the world. You just don't know it yet.
All right, let's get into the next one. We were talking about vacation for a little bit. Let's talk cruises. It really shouldn't be a surprise, but baby boomers and Gen Xers are the key market for cruise lines. They started taking cruises, 10, 20, maybe 30 years ago. And they have watched ships get bigger. They've added more entertainment. They offer more dining options. But over some time, the novelty has worn off. And maybe they don't party as much as they did in the past when they get on a cruise. So now we think about this audience, these Gen Xers and baby boomers, they have more free time and they have a whole lot of money. So they are now looking for more comfort, upscale dining, and they have developed an interest in discovery of new destinations, cultures, and experiences. And the cruise industry has taken notice. Entered the new luxury cruise line segment. One example, Crystal Cruises, one of the leaders of the luxury cruise industry, launched 3 new ships that are 800 passenger Diamond class ships that will be all suite and all balcony. And that's just on one side of the cruise line world. As the core cruise shopper continues to get older and wealthier, here comes bigger luxury cruise lines. On the other side, which is really interesting to me, nearly half of all Royal Caribbean guests are millennials or younger. And it seems like the mainstream cruise lines like Carnival and Royal Caribbean are making active efforts to reduce the stigma associated with cruising and try to appeal to more younger shoppers. You got Carnival, whose ad spots now feature Shack, and you're seeing a lot of young people vacationing with friends, kind of almost like a college graduation party or celebration, right? You see Royal Caribbean being the jersey sponsor for Inter Miami. We've talked about this in the last season about how big MLS is becoming, and it's Gen Z is driving the growth of MLS and soccer in the US, right? So it's a really interesting thing that's happening in the cruise industry where the typical cruise line vacationer who you got that picture in your head, and they're getting wealthier, they have more free time, they're retired, and they want more out of cruise lines. But don't be too segmented on just thinking about that typical cruise liner. There's a lot of young people who actually really enjoy the cruise line experience, and they're making active efforts to appeal to them. I think everyone kind of thought and felt that the cruise line industry was on its way to death during COVID, and everything was tanking in that direction. Those few stories of that Carnival cruise out in the middle of the Gulf, was going to tank the entire industry. But we've seen a complete opposite thing. And it's really fascinating to see. For any of you guys looking in the market for a vacation, cruise line's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this, but more than 40% of Gen Zers say they plan on going into debt to fund their summer travel. And I mean, cruises are actually a very economical way, like the entry level cruises, to actually get out. And that's I often encourage people, why don't you take a cruise? It's a really easy way to just get everyone together, coordinate everything. I think it's a great way to travel personally. But there is a rise of these luxury cruises. I don't know if you guys saw the Ritz Carlton. Ritz Carlton also launched a yacht thing a couple years ago, but it's really now they're running ads on it and really pushing it a lot more. A 5 night cruise for a single person is $4,600. For 11 nights, it's $15,300. And these are not. I mean, these are like a few hundred people on a ship, and it's like that versus the thousands that would be on a Royal Caribbean or Carnival. So I see it. The disparity is happening. Like there's definitely some ad placement that I'm getting is of more yachts and things like that. Maybe they think I'm retired, but, but this is happening, and yeah, I see cruises. I actually I see why they're going to grow.
For anybody that's going into debt, let's just make a public announcement. Please don't go to debt for vacations, guys. Just hold off, please. That's a terrible idea, you Gen Zers and Gen Xers, and please don't go into debt. But from a revenue standpoint on cruises, guys, yeah, cruises are totally up. They were about last year they were about 25 billion, which was below still COVID levels, but this year already, first half of 2024, they're already at $30 billion. So they're going to hit that number and way more in the cruise line. And it is these Gen Zers and Gen Xers that apparently are going to debt for cruise lines. But I agree with the deal. I think these are new markets. These are new opportunities uh, for cruise liners to gain revenue, and I think they're doing the right job, marketing to the right people, creating these new experiences. I've seen some like EDM ones and rave versions, and then I've seen the luxury ones, and I've seen the Disney ones, and all types. There's a cruise for anybody, and they're at every price point you can think of. So yes, I think this is the right market. As long as there's not another outbreak, I think we'll be okay.
Yep. All right. So a week ago, majority of people probably didn't even know of a place called Rafa, and now 50 million people have shared the "All Eyes on Rafa" image on Instagram. Here's the backstory though. So Israel had instructed Palestinians to move to a refugee camp in Rafah, a tent city, and they designated it a safe zone. Despite this, Israel bombed it and causing tons of chaos. 45 people were killed, over 300 were injured. And this kind of led to an AI image being produced depicting body bags and tents with the words "All Eyes on Rafa." This AI image, yes, it is a palatable representation of what actually happened, but it really brushes over the actual atrocities that occurred there. I personally shared the image, and I think it's because of the palatable nature of it that I did it. But I also think that's why it went viral as well. So people who are wanting, they know what's happening, they know it's wrong, or they have their feelings about it, but because it was palatable, I feel like it really got a point across. And because of the sheer number of shares, 50 million on a single image is insane. Google searches for Rafa went up to the tens of millions. All national news outlets picked up the story. It was a top hashtag on X for 3 days until the Trump verdict yesterday. But the image did go viral. And so the question I have for you guys is, does this kind of sharing even work? Like, does it create change? What are your thoughts?
Part of this is and I want to take the social aspect or the actual like why it happened, but I just want to talk about the campaigning of this and the virality of it, right? I think the idea you take some sort of message that is connectable, that people can relate to, that people have some sort of understanding of, and make it easily to share without like, people don't know. I can guarantee more than half the people that shared that have no idea what's going on or what side of the spectrum they're on, right? Um, but because it was viral, because it was easy to share and it felt like they were part of something, they did it. Now, this could easily have been something exactly the opposite, right? That could have been totally something uncanny and negative, and I'm not going to put ideas in people's heads, but like part of this is like, yes, it's a good cause, and people got, and things happen. Things did happen. You'll hear Biden's message. You'll hear the news outlets talking about it. You heard the Google search, people actually trying to figure out what is happening, which is phenomenal. So I think there's really good to this, but also I think at the same time is that we've got to, I hate people that share stuff that don't know what they're sharing, and that's the part that I'm like, hey, at least for those tens of millions that Googled it and searched it, figured out what it was happening or knew, great, good job, keep doing what you're doing, build the awareness. But my caution is when virality happens, just to feel part of it doesn't mean you should be doing it.
Yeah, Salim, I agree with you. I think it things that this isn't the first time that this has happened on social media, right? We can all go back to Black Lives Matter, and there was the whole blackout, right? Change your profile picture to a black screen, and that made it very clear on who out of your friends list and follow list did it or not. And I'm gonna be honest, I do think that this has a similar sentiment to it, where it became cool to post this, or you were afraid about what it would look like if you didn't. And I think there was a period of time where you would look on every single person's story and you see the same post right across the board. Now there is a concept within social media algorithms called echo chamber, right? This is the social media algorithm itself tends to show users content that you already agree with, right? So think about the followers, people who you tend to have like-minded values with, right? So these things tend to limit the reach of these types of messages. I actually had a friend of mine that I follow who did a little bit of an analysis on posting some stories about his music right before, posted this post, and then posted some other stuff about his, some photos about his hangout after. And this one particular story had 10% of the views that his stories that he did before and after this, right? So when we think about like social media suppressing these types of messages, like these are real things, right? We all saw it, you saw it because your friends posted it, but it really stayed within your circle, right? Like you are not reaching the masses with these types of stories. Barely are you with more of your personal stories, right? But these types of stuff gets even further suppressed in algorithms, right? We'll see what it does to this post when we post it on Instagram, right? The fact that we're talking about it. But my take on it is, social media is not bad for social justice movements, but it is one tool in a toolbox that needs to be combined with other offline strategies for it to effectively work. Adil, to your question, right? Like for it to feel like you're making change, right? We don't want to get caught up in the idea of slacktivism, this false sense of accomplishment that you're making a change when you're really not, right? But I do think that it is an important thing. It is a platform of voice, it being social media, that we all have access to, and I do think it's important to use it for social justice. But I don't think we should overinflate how impactful these things can be when we are, as a people, out on a mission to try to drive change in the world.
Yeah, I hear you guys. Reason why I personally shared it was because I saw the sheer number of shares on it, and I thought that, oh wow, this could actually educate some people. I have been following this genocide for some time, and I was sharing things early on, then I stopped sharing things, and I was just like, I don't know if this is working. Then I saw the sheer number of shares on this one, and I thought, wow, this is actually, it's not a real image, but it's working. Something is working here. Let me go ahead and share it. And what's interesting though, guys, is that today Biden has been mum about all of this stuff. Today he releases a ceasefire plan. He had never done this. Like he said that, oh, we're encouraging Israel to do it. We're encouraging, but he actually has a step-by-step plan that them and Israel have worked on together now. Obama has come out and said, made a statement on this now. And I don't think that would be the case if this got a couple thousand shares, right? Like, I mean, there's been so much atrocity happening in Haiti, in Ukraine, the Uyghurs in China. Like, no one's really talking about that as much. But because people are talking about this and sharing these palatable images, it's being addressed. And so I think while we say that it may or may not work, I think it does. And now I think people on the very extreme side of it, I don't want to say extreme, but people who really are upset about what's going on, rightfully so. They think that we should be posting the actual images of what's happening, and that's important too. But you can't expect everyone to post that, right? And so the things that do go viral are the more palatable things. And so point is like, George Floyd's video was maybe not as palatable, but it was like, it was something that was shared. And now we have a day dedicated to George Floyd, right? Like President Biden makes a point, to talk about George Floyd, and he did this year too. It would not have happened if people didn't talk about it. So that's where I think that these things do matter. And conversation, while I think it is comical that we can just, it's like first world problems, right? Like, should we share this or not? That's our decision. These guys are having to fight for their lives, and we're just kind of deciding, should we share this or not? But social pressure, I think, does make a difference when people are talking about it.
We're gonna do a change and go to the next kind of the next segment of the podcast, and we're gonna talk about marketing. And as you know, on the episodes that I choose, always try to pull up a marketing trend and talk about it and get you guys' insight on that, right? So I want to talk about the impact of billboards, and this came up because a friend of mine, Musa Tariq, and a photographer, came out with an Instagram called Sunset Billboards on Sunset. And if everybody knows, Sunset Boulevard has these huge billboards of different types that have these aggressive, ads of, fashion designers or products or services, and who doesn't love a good billboard? You see them everywhere. You see now some of them get virality. We've talked about a few on this ways of different advertising, billboard advertising, and look, the average cost of a billboard is $66,000 for a month. In rural areas, they can go from $750 to $2,000. Small to mid markets, 25 to 4, and then larger markets like Houston and Dallas and where we are, or LA, New York, they could go 14, 35, $100,000 a month. Sunset Boulevard can range between 35 and 100,000. But here's my question, right? What is the impact of a billboard where you'll get hundreds of thousands of impressions on people that may or may not, be relevant to your ad? Or your target audience, but then you've got like digital targeting ads now, right? That'll give you millions of impressions to your target audience for the same price. So, what are your thoughts here, Adil and Samir? Samir, Samir, you're in the ad world. Why don't you go first?
Yeah, it's a good question. My take on it: billboards, high reach, low impact. That's where it sits in the marketing mix. That's where it's always going to fit within the media plan. It is, you're putting dollars there to drive a more efficient cost per view across your entire campaign because you're going to get your views. But it's low impact, meaning you're going to have very little time to be able to drive a message. You're going to rarely really resonate to anybody looking at it. Not to mention, you do anything super creative or distractive, you're probably going to cause a car crash. So I think there is like a lot of restrictions creatively. And then on the other side of it, I do think it's one of the few tools that exist within the marketing mix that does give you a reasonable, efficient reach, and while acknowledging the fact that it's low impact, that it's not going to drive some sort of deep message. Sure as hell is not going to make you do anything, make any sort of action, but it is an awareness driver. It's going to get in your way, right? Like they're disruptive in the right spaces. You can use them strategically for the right types of campaigns, and I don't think they're going anywhere. My thing on billboards is that it's taken a long time for it to innovate. I think we are now, like in the last 10 years, I feel like we have seen digital billboards become a thing. Now they have very different type of pricing models attached to them, right? You can target seasonality, you can target time of day, you can even be part of a rotation that can be more efficient, more cheaper. And that's as far as we've gotten with billboards. I think in season 1, we talked a little bit about, was it in Japan or China or some East Asian country, where there's billboards that are these massive, really immersive screens, and you can see a lion crawling out of it, right? Those things are really impressive creatively, right? That I think we talked about when we talked about the Sphere in Vegas, and we talk about the rich creativity that can come from that type of ad unit, but we're not seeing that at the masses. And billboards, frankly, have been pretty flat, pun intended, right? And across the country. So I'm waiting to see like who the hell is going to make some true innovation in this space. Like how can we think about and use billboards differently? Because it's really been the same, and it has been used the same way for God knows how long. So I'm waiting to see if there's something interesting coming that is just not at scale yet.
Yeah, it's really interesting how billboards, their effectiveness range. So like the technology component, Blip Billboards does a really good job buying small segments. You could say I want it at 6 o'clock at this time on this highway, you know, and they'll make sure you're in the rotation. But billboards, I think, still have effectiveness if you're trying to reach a wide audience and trying to. I'll give you an example. There's a billboard right on the highway where we take the exit for for these restaurants and stuff, and it says "Got ED?" question mark. Now imagine if there was salespeople calling and saying, "Hey, I'm just calling to see if you have ED." That's very personal, intrusive, and that's like something that no one would ever want to have a conversation about. But having a broad pitch to "Got ED?" question mark and putting it on the side of a billboard, you know the statistics are on your side, right? Like there's a huge percentage of men that deal with this, but as let them make the first call then, right? So I think billboards and doing, you know, ads on TV and stuff, that's where it becomes really effective, is where you can pitch out these large broad problems that people deal with, and you see, hey, why don't you give us a call if you're dealing with this, right? Or if you need this, or like, you know, that's why these personal injury lawyers like do so well along the highway, because if there's an accident, you're going to see a billboard, you're going to, hey, this is a problem I'm dealing with right now, let me call this guy, right? And so that's where billboards, I think, are still very effective. Apparently billboards are driving a lot of online traffic too. So there's been multiple studies on this, but HubSpot's done a study where it's driving almost 82% of viewers can recall a digital out-of-home ad when they saw it a month ago. So they will bridge what they saw on a out-of-home, like a out-of-home meaning like a billboard or something. 82% will recall that, and then will go, you know, maybe not all 82 will go online, but it's pretty phenomenal, that number. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting discussion, Celine.
Like, I think there's certain cases that it works well, right? One is directional, right? Like if you look at, like, Buc-ee's is famous for this, right? Buc-ee's coming 30 miles ahead, 100 miles ahead, or McDonald's has done, hey, look right, you know, that, or things that are slightly controversial, right? Like what you said, right, Adil? Something like that would be hard to do an ad campaign for. Or right now there's the Calvin Klein ad that somehow Calvin Klein always gets banned. Like there was a Jeremy Allen ad that got banned, and now they've got the the FKA Twigs ad in UK getting banned. Bumble had the one where the celibacy is not the answer. In controversy, like when it's controversial, I think those will go viral because of the controversy of it, right? So if you're somewhere in the middle and you're just trying to make a brand impression, you may lose out. It becomes really hard for me internally to sell. Like I've been wanting to put a billboard ad, and I'm like, yeah, it's like saying, do you really want to spend $30,000-$40,000 on an ad on there, or can I go do it here and it'd be more valuable, right? So the controversy gets it, but I think there's some markets that work well, but then you have like Chanel and Loewe and all these big brands that'll just throw it up on a big wall just so they can have the brand presence because they can, right? They're building that luxury price into it. But yeah, good discussion.
Yeah. All right.
Well, that's it for the episode, guys. Any other closing thoughts, Amir, Adil?
Nope. Stay fabulous, guys.
Men go mad.
He's gone mad.
Mad Men.
The man's mad.
Mad Men.
I'm mad.